Hello and what's up, everyone? Welcome to day 3 of our finals review. This is day 3 out of 5. We're getting so close. We're almost done. But let's jump right into it. First problem says John determines that sides MO and JL are congruent. You know what we're going to do? We're going to mark that right away. MO is right here. We're going to put a little dash on it. And JL is right here. We're going to put a dash on that. He also measures angle O and J and determines that they are congruent. So we're going to also mark those off. Angle J is here. And angle O is here. So we have the side and we have an angle congruent. He concludes that the triangles are congruent by side angle side theorem. Is John correct? If he is incorrect, which congruent theorem should John use? Explain your reasoning and show all your work, including measurement of line segments. Well, the thing is, we don't know if he's correct or incorrect because we're missing a side here. Side angle side would mean that we need these sides, KJ and NO, to be congruent. And in order to do that, we need to use our distance formula to find out. So that's what we have to do. We have to do our distance formula. Remember our distance formula? It's x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. We have to do it for both of these, right? And that means we have to know our values of these points. So let's do it for NO first. N is at 7, 7. And O is at 2, 4. Right? And those are our first sets of points here. So I'm going to list them. 7, 7, and 2, 4. And we can label them x1, y1, x2, y2. And then we can plug it in. And we get rid of the d equals here. We're just going to substitute things in and then get a number. That's going to give me x2, which is 2, minus x1, which is 7 squared, plus 4 minus 7 squared, which will then give me negative 5 squared plus negative 3 squared, which will then give me 25 plus 9, which will then give me square root of 34. That's our first set of points. We want our second set of points to also equal the square root of 34. What are my second set of points? It's K and J. K is located at negative 9, comma, negative 3. And J is at negative 6, negative 8. So we have negative 9, negative 3, and then negative 6, negative 8. Once again, we label them x1, y1, x2, y2. Awesome. Then we plug them in. We get the square root of negative 6 plus, because we have a minus negative, 9 squared plus negative 8. And this is going to turn to a plus 3 squared. That will give me, when we do it inside of our parentheses, we're going to get 3 squared plus 5 squared, or sorry, negative 5 squared, which will then give me 9 plus 25. Starting to look the same, which will then give me 34. These are equal, so that means they are congruent, which then finally means that these triangles are congruent by side angle side congruency. So he is correct. John is correct. They are congruent by side angle side congruency because we confirm that the second side here is congruent, and we're good to go. Awesome. Next up, it says suppose U is the midpoint of TR. So U is the midpoint of TR. So we could say that TU and UR are congruent. And NU and UP are congruent. Cool. NU, UP are congruent. So we have two sets of sides congruent. What information would you need to conclude that triangle TUN and PUR are congruent using side angle side. Well, we would have to know that angle TUN and angle PUR are congruent. Angle TUN congruent, angle PUR. And we do know that. Why? Because they're vertical angles. And vertical angles are always congruent. So then we could say that triangle TUN is congruent. Whoops. The triangle PUR. Why? Side angle side congruent. Awesome. Next up, we have our truth table for conditional statements, basically an if-then statement. So it says, if an animal is a turtle, then the animal is a rectangle. So our first one, if P is true and Q is true, then our statement is true. Our second one, if the animal is a turtle, then the animal is a reptile. P is true, and our Q is false. That is false. And then if our hypothesis is true, second one's false, or hypothesis is false, second part's true, we get true, and well, if they're both false, we get true. So true, false, true, true. On to the next one. It says, consider the conditional statement. If n is the midpoint of CD, then CD equals 2CN. What is our hypothesis? That's our if section. It's n is the midpoint of CD. And our conclusion is CD equals 2CN. It says, what is the truth value of the conditional statement if P is false and Q is false? Explain your reasoning. So if N is not the midpoint of CD, then CD is not equal to CN. That is true. The whole thing will be true because if N isn't the midpoint, that means it's not in the middle, which then means CN will not be half of the value of CD, which means 2CN will not equal CD. That's simple. Next up, angle addition postulate. It says if RQT, which is this big angle on the outside here, is 125 degrees, we want to determine the value of these two. In order to do that, we have to find the value of X. So we could say that angle RQS plus angle TQS is equal to angle RT. And we could substitute in the values here. So RQS is equal to 3x. Whoops, sorry about that. Minus 10 plus TQS, which is 4x plus 9. And RQT, we know, is 125. Combine like terms, it's going to give me 7x minus 1 is equal to 125. We add 1 to both sides. That's going to give me 7x equals 126. Now I need to go to my trusty dusty calculator. 126 divided by 7. So when we divide both sides by 7 here, to get it away from my x, it'll cancel. And we're left with x equals 18. Now we just have to plug it in. So we could say angle RUS is going to equal, we do 3 times 18. 3 times 18 is going to give me 54 minus 10 will give me 44 degrees for RQS. And then angle TQS, we say 4 times 18. Sorry, my brain's not working on my calculator here. 4 times 18. We get 72. And then we do 72 plus 9, which will give me 81. 81 degrees. And if we want to double check our work, we can say 44 plus 81. Does that give me 125? Yes, it does. 44 plus 81 equals 125. That means everything makes sense here. Everything is right. Everything is true. We did our math correctly. Next up, we have two angles and they create a straight line, which means they equal 180. This is a linear pair. So we could do the same thing that we said last time. We could say that angle ABC plus angle CBC equals 180 this time because they equal a linear pair. Means they add up to a 180. Then we could say 2x plus 13x minus 15 equals 180. We could combine our like terms here. Give me 15x minus 15 equals 180. We add 15 to both sides. That gives me 15x equals 195. And now we just divide both sides. 195 divided by 15. So when we do that, divide both sides by 15. Like I said, it cancels here and we get x is equal to 13. And that's all they're looking for. They just want to know what is the value of x. There it is. Next up, it says suppose AD is congruent to CB. I'm going to mark that off. AD is congruent to CB. And ADB is congruent to angle CBD. ADB is right here, and CBD is right here. Are there congruent triangles in this diagram? Explain your reasoning. Well, we would need one more side or one more angle congruent in order to say so. And can we determine that? Well, yeah, look at these two triangles. They share a side. What is that side? That side's a DB right here. So we could say that DB is congruent to BD. Why? Because it's itself. Of course, the same thing is equal to itself. That is called our reflexive property. Awesome. That's our reflexive property. Which then means that the triangle ABCD is congruent to triangle CBD. Why? Because of side angle side. There's your answer. When it says explain your reasoning, we're able to show it through a diagram and with our properties here and theorems that we proved it to be true. Next up, we actually have the answers here already. I'm just going to go through and kind of explain to you what the answers are and why they are, right? So it says to fill in these reasons, it's this statement and this statement. So let's actually see what we got going on. It says in the figure shown, CF intersects AD and EH at points B and F respectively. Given that the measure of angle CBD is equal to the measure of angle BFE. I'm going to mark that off in my diagram up here. CBD is right here. BFE is right here. We want to show that BFE plus DBF equals 180. So they start off by telling us our given, right? That these angles are equal. It then says CBD and DBF is equal to 180, right? Why? Because they're a linear pair. These two angles right here up top give me that straight line. So they're a linear pair. And then our next one, it says we're adding these things. What happens from one statement to the next? We just swap out CBD for BFE. We just swap them out. And when we swap something out like that, it's our transitive property right down below. So there's our two answers. Next up, we now want to prove, given the same information, CBD is equal to BFE, right? Same information as the last one. We now want to say ABF is equal to BFE. So where's ABF? ABF is right here. Well, what they do is they say CBD is equal to ABF. Why? Because they are vertical angles. They are vertical angles. Vertical angles. And then since they are equal, right? And here we have something equal. We then have our transitive property, which is if two things are equal to the same thing, then they're equal. BFE and ABF are both equal to CBD here. So then that means ABF and BFE have to be equal. Awesome. And our last one. The last one says the figure shows rectangle PQRS in the first quadrant of the coordinate plane. This rectangle PQRS is reflected across the x-axis, and that creates P prime, Q prime, R prime, S prime, which two further transformations will carry rectangle PQRS back onto PQRS. So we want to get the image after it's reflected. If it's reflected over our x-axis, it's going to be somewhere here, looking like this. Boom and boom, where this is Q prime, this is R prime, this is S prime, and this will be E prime. Right? How do we get it back? Well, our answer here is C. It's already selected for us. It says the reflection across the y-axis. We'll flip it, going over this way. And then we're going to rotate that around. And it's going to land on itself over here when we rotate it 100 degrees around the origin. That is the answer. If you need help with it or you want to know more about this, please let me or your teacher know. That's all we got for today. As always, if you are confused, if you need help with any of these problems, don't be afraid to reach out. We're more than happy to help. Just let us know. But thank you, and I hope you learned a little bit of something. Until next time, peace.